Hello and welcome back. We are so grateful to have you back on the podcast with us. And we have a really unique and beautiful topic that we're going to be speaking into today, and one that Dani personally has had a lot more experience in. And I think me probing her with some questions will be really powerful for our listeners to hear and witness.
Yeah.
And so, what we're going to be speaking into today is plant medicine and also a little bit around like altered states of consciousness. And I think it's such a broad topic when we really think about like altered states of consciousness and like different modalities that can lead us to altered states of consciousness. And I know in my healing journey, I initially started out with like doing meditations because I was told that meditations were good for me. I can't remember why I was told they were good for me. I was just told I should do them. And I was a very like A-type personality, and I was like, "Okay, so I meditate for 15 minutes every morning, and then I go do this and this and this." It was very structured. And then I started to, like, read and learn more and try different practices, and I started to try different meditative practices, and I started to experience out of body experiences. So I started to connect with, like, spirit guides. I started to see things from, like, my past or, like, past lives, and I started to like really go beyond this realm and this 3D world through my meditative experiences. And I started to realize that there was way more than met my eye. Like this world I had been living in, this job I had been doing, this life I had been living in. What I thought was all that was real and true, like this life death experience of what we're in right now. I started to be like, holy crap, there is way more out there. And I felt like I was just like chipping the surface as I started to deepen my meditative practices. And that was like the start of me going into altered states of consciousness. And yeah, it was so special, but also really profound and like it was really beautiful because throughout that whole journey, me and Dani were friends, and I was able to share my journeys with you, and we were able to make something that was so profound, so normal together, and really encourage each other.
And isn't it interesting though? Because like I remember for myself when I started experiencing these things, I would like come out of the experience and I'd be like, was that real? Or was
Mm,
that just my imagination? But
yeah,
the thing is though, is of course it's the imagination, but it doesn't mean that it's not real,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think that's really easy to do, especially when you're not in trust with self or your intuition, and you're not, yeah, like really connected with yourself. Because I remember doubting myself too, and then being like, no, but I just had that whole experience. And I think the more that you do it, and especially the spaces you put yourself in, where it's normalized and it's encouraged, the more you're like, holy crap, okay, what I'm experiencing is actually real for me.
Mm, mm. I remember having a conversation with my son at his rite of passage. So at his rite of passage, I did ceremony and did like a long, in-depth like Reiki session. His first ever proper Reiki session. His first ever proper shamanic drum journey. And like after the experience, I remember asking him like, "How was that for you?" And he was like, "Oh, just felt like deeply relaxed." And I just was in like this. I was just daydreaming a lot. And I was like, "Oh yeah." And what did you see? And he was like, "Oh, oh, it was just a daydream." And then I explained to him, we sat down and did some teachings based on like an altered state of consciousness, which is that's exactly what happens through even a Reiki session.
Mhm.
Not for everyone, but people that are quite visual will have can have like an altered state of consciousness. Experience through a Reiki healing session, which is really really profound and really interesting and really beautiful as well. And obviously, as you said, Mon, like the more that you do it, and the more that you sit down and do it for 15 minutes, do the little meditation for 15 minutes consistently, you start to access your pineal gland and you start to strengthen the muscle. So it starts to allow you to um, see things that are, really there that we don't actually get to access in our day to day waking state that we're not supposed to access in our day to day waking state, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's such a beautiful piece of, like, knowing that, because there's this part I feel like in today's society where meditation is seen as, like, this thing you should do, and it's, like, good for your mental health, it's, like, discipline, do meditation, like, there's this really masculine energy behind it and having, like, structure to it and, like, I don't know, listening to a recording or whatever it is.
Mm.
But I feel like there's this beautiful unknown piece of, like, meditations can be, you can go on with an intention and, like, surrender to it, and it can be this beautiful journey to somewhere that you didn't even know was available to you, and it can go beyond this realm that we're living in,
Mm.
where there's no structure to the meditation, it's more of a surrender.
So it's more of a feminine flow. It's the feminine
Mm.
essence, right, that really gets you there as well. Like if you think
Yeah.
about meditation as well, it's just something that I say to a lot of my clients. You think about a meditation. Meditation comes in so many different forms, so many
Mhm.
different ways to meditate. You can literally listen to high vibrational frequency music. And go for a really beautiful walk and just watch and look at everything that you see, or you can sit down and place mudras on your knees and really concentrate on the third eye, or you can, like, through shamanic drumming, you're literally
Mhm.
drumming and using the sound of vibration to drop you into another world, right? And then you drop out of the identity, you let go of the identity of self, and you literally drop through the veil and go into another world, and then you start a journey. And
Mhm.
yeah, really profound. It can be really profound. But again, even just journaling is a really beautiful, beautiful way of meditating. Hey, sister.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
right next to the
absolutely.
water as well. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, there's so many different ways to practice. And I think that it's not really like find the one that works for you. It's more like I feel like I ebb and flow through every practice and I go through phases with each one.
Yeah.
I'm like loving my meditation where I sit down at my altar, or I'm loving my journaling, or I'm loving my walks. And you like, just like nothing lasts forever, I feel like you go through these different phases and different practices serve you at different times of your life.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because when you allow the feminine essence to completely flow through your meditation practice or journey or whatever you're choosing to do for that specific moment, it will then become unique and perfect for you. So, for example, like I hadn't sat down and just listened to like a specific type of frequency music and just closed my eyes and listened and gone inward for quite some time, because most of my practices are spiritual practices. So I dedicate ritual every morning in ceremony for generally around 2 hours to do shamanic journeying. But sometimes, like, I'll take it away and I won't meditate at all. Like, I'll go for a walk. But the other morning, a few days ago, I went and sat down at the forest and I was called to turn my phone completely off and not listen to anything except listen to the chirping of the birds and listening to the sounds of the ducks landing on the water and the wind rustling through the trees and the cars driving past, and everything was music. Like, everything was music, and they say that in a shaman's way, like, you don't need music. You can
Mhm.
hear, everything has a melody. Life is an instrument, um, which was something that I was taught in a mushroom journey once, a very minor mushroom journey, is that all life is an instrument. All you need to do is just slow down and listen, turn everything else off. But the experience that I had was so visual, but it was just like geometry and kaleidoscopes and colors and flashes of like white lights and nothing that the analytical mind could have put into some sort of a story. It was
Mhm.
just visionary and felt. But I just remember getting this feeling through my body and tears just forming down my face, that I was in like so much aura and love and unity of where I was sitting and just being there by myself. And I know that it definitely didn't start that way for me, but the practice had really allowed me to get to that. But again, if I had gone, oh well, I should be in a ceremony this morning, or I should be doing this, then I wouldn't have got that really beautiful, gentle experience.
Mhm.
And I think I was in that meditation for maybe 10 minutes. Like, it wasn't that long, but it felt so incredibly nourishing.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, and I can picture that and I can feel that in me.
Mm.
And I think that's, like, such an important piece as well is, like, when you go on these journeys, a lot of it is, like, felt. Like, there's, like, there's a felt sense and you're having visuals or whatever your experience is. When you come back to this 3D realm and you try to put it into words through language, you are not gonna do it justice.
Mm-mm.
So it's like it's kinda like, when you look at a sunset and, like, your whole body's like, "This is fucking amazing." And then you go home and you're like to your partner, "Babe, that sunset was amazing." Like, those words do not do it justice to what you just felt
Mm.
and, like, what you experienced. You can't really describe a lot of, like, the journeys that you go on and, like, whether it's breath work, whether it's your plant medicine, like, words don't really always do it justice, and it's, like, allowing that to be okay and knowing that your experience was incredible and that words don't always need to be able to explain what happened.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. I remember the very first breathwork experience that I did, like a proper, a proper, mm, not Wim Hof. What's the name for it? Anyway, it was a deep, deep breathwork
Mhm.
journey, and I remember that I felt like I was having an exorcism, like I was experiencing and releasing all of this stored energy and darkness and trauma that was, within me. But like I just remember being in this visionary state as well, and I thought to myself like, what the fuck is happening?
Mhm.
Like, I'm literally just breathing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was such a profound experience.
I've experienced similar. Were you screaming or
Yeah,
yelling? Yeah,
yeah.
same,
My
same.
kids my kids said to me, they're like, "Mom, it sounded like you were having an exorcism." I was like,
Like,
"Yeah,
"Don't
there's
come
some
in, I'm fine."
demons in there."
Mm. I had a similar I did,
Holotropic.
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 Yeah. I did an online breath work with, like, I think there was about 30 people, and it was a 1-hour breath work class, so you're doing breathing for an hour, which is very, like it's a
Mhm.
lot of energy.
Mm.
And this was, like, maybe, like, 3 years ago at the start of my journey. And I can remember I thought that my Zoom was muted, so I thought no one could hear me. And I was just, like, fully in this journey. Like, I could see my body coming out, like, above me. Like, my soul, sorry, was looking down at me, and I could see my body on the ground. And I was screaming, I was crying, my body was shaking and vibrating. It was so active. And I can remember, like, as they brought us out of it, the guy that was facilitating it was like, "Simone, do you wanna speak into what came through for you?" He's like, "So much came through." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, he could hear me?" He's like, "Yeah, for safety, I turned your mic on." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness." But that was, like, one of the most beautiful experiences I had had through breathwork because when I came up out of it, I was looking at myself on the Zoom call in the camera, like my little square of my photo, and I was so captivated by how beautiful I was. And I
Mm.
couldn't get over how incredible I was. I was, like, obsessed with my photo on the screen. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so beautiful." I was crying at my beauty.
Mm.
And I had shed so many layers, like, through that breath work were about, like, judgment and self-rejection and victim and self-disgust and self-hate. Like, I'd let go of so much through breath, through that altered state, that when I came out of it, I was like, "Whoa," I felt completely different.
Mm.
It was yeah, breathwork is such a powerful modality.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I really recommend doing it guided to start off with.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and then yeah, it's something I do a lot. Like me and my partner do it a lot together.
Mm.
It's beautiful for like increasing energy levels or reducing your stress or anything like that.
Mm. And
Dropping you into your body.
it instantly drops you into your body and
Mhm.
takes you straight out of your head, like, as soon as you focus on your breath, because then your mind will start, giving thoughts like, "You can't hold this breath. You need to take a breath, you need to breathe. Like, and they're literally the only thoughts that will then go through your mind. So it takes you out of a state that you were ever in
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah. And it's also this piece of it's such a beautiful way for like beginners to connect with their body because like your body's vibrating, you can feel like the breath through your body, you can feel the movement through your body. And you as you go into like breath holds or breath retentions, you come down into your body or up into your third eye and like you pay attention to the sensations in your body and you get out of your head through breath work and you start to experience that you are fucking so much more than you ever thought you were through those altered states. And you're like, yeah, it's breathing, but it's so much more than breathing.
Mm.
Yeah, I love breath work.
It's so powerful. I even
Yeah.
get my kids to do breath work. I've been, yeah,
Mm.
implementing breath work for quite some time now. And it's helped dramatically for all three of my babies, my big babies. But
Yeah.
especially for my little one, who has ADHD as well. Whenever he's in that state, even just one big breath in and one big breath out, it's just like releasing that tension. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. It just brings you back home.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think like it's such an interesting piece because when we speak into like modalities, like so meditation or like breath work coming into altered states of consciousness, I also feel like through doing practices like that consistently, you are able to live at a higher level of consciousness just regularly.
100%. Even ecstatic dance has been a really big
Mhm.
one for me as well. Like, and I know that once I've hit around about 40 minutes, you then start to, or actually not 40 minutes. I know that it takes my clients 20 minutes to drop in before they let go of that like self judgment and how am I moving. But I know for myself that once I kind of drop into that 30 minutes, I'll have like a little bit of resistance that comes up for me, just like breath work. Oh my God, I have to keep doing this. I'm so tired. I don't want to do this. But when you push through that, that's when you'll go through that altered state of consciousness, which is the
Mhm.
exact same with um, breath work.
Yeah.
And it's also the exact same with like plant medicine. Once you start to feel that, oh my gosh, I'm going in, it's like come back to breath. And then it's like let go of that fear and just travel in with it. And then the journey will unfold. And it's the same with like even a shamanic journey. I know that I've been um in shamanic journeys before and they've been so profound that I've kind of like had to like move my body, move my drum in a way. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still here. Oh yeah, I'm still
Mhm.
here because I feel like completely disconnected from my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is so profound, but also so beautiful to have those moments where you're like, you can feel you coming into your head and you're pulling yourself back into your body and you're able to go beyond what you thought you were able to experience
Mm,
through that. It almost makes me feel like similar to what happens when you do a pleasure practice,
yeah,
like when you're self pleasuring
yeah.
and like you're starting with sensual touch and you're in your head a little bit and then you pull yourself back into your body and you're like just focus on what you can feel, what you can smell, like the sensations in your body. And you come into that like orgasmic state and you experience like beyond like this lifetime of like this erotic energy like rushing through your system.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's all these different things I feel like really play into living a life where there's deeper like gratitude, joy, love, contentment, bliss. Like, because I know the way that me and you feel in life, Danny, is really beautiful. And I think it's because of these modalities that we're doing all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It really shows you that there's so much more to life than just the physical, which we get so caught up in. It's just the 3D. It's just the physical. It's like one thing to learn energetics and spirituality and um, wellness and
Mhm.
all of these things. It's one thing to learn it all, and then it's another thing to do it. But when you start to like do it to a point where it starts to actually take over your life and things really deeply change, like the the way that you look at relationships, the way that you look at other people and like potentially their trauma. You know, I was having a conversation recently with um, my daughter about something that had really traumatically happened to a girl that she knows. Um, Teenagers drinking and, you know, doing all of the things. And I was having a conversation with her and I just had so much like deep, like rooted deep within my bones, just like awareness for how deeply traumatized this boy must have been to be able to do what he did to this other girl, right? And so much deep understanding and sorrow and compassion for what the girl went through, you know, but to be able to look at the other side and go, wow, you know, and then have this conversation again with my daughter. She didn't quite understand. I was like, you're not meant to right now, and that's okay. But, you know, like looking back, for example, the very first man that ever sexually assaulted me when I was 5, was 4 turning 5 or 5. He was 72. No, he was 69. He was 72 when he got sent to jail. Right? He was 69 years old. Like, anyone could look at that and go, "Wow, that's horrible." And yeah, it is. Of course it is. I'm not saying that it's okay. But, like, now because of, like, all of these altered states of consciousness and how I understand how we're actually all fucking connected, you know, like, that person over there is hurting, so that means that I'm hurting too. Like, that poor man, for him to get to 69 years old and still be doing that to, like, a predator to a 5-year-old little girl, like, how much trauma is he really going through? How much is he living with? How many dark entities or energies or spirits are in his field? You know,
Mhm.
it's like, "Whoa, I really feel for that." Not gonna give
Yeah.
too much to that, but I just feel that and allow that
Yeah.
compassion there, right?
Mm.
This definitely wouldn't have been able to get there if it wasn't for that point of understanding the
Mm. I'm
the
so proud.
magic of
Yeah.
an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's through that altered state that you're like, "Oh, fuck, I'm not separate."
Yeah,
You're like, "Oh my gosh, no one did anything to me.
yeah,
It's not you versus me.
yeah.
We're all one."
Mm,
And then you're not trying to better anyone or compete with anyone or, like, shun anyone out or hurt anyone. You realize that what you do to another, you do to yourself because we are all one.
mhm,
And so you live your life in a way that is more authentic and more honoring of yourself, but also in a way that, like, you're not out to get anyone or get anything. You're more present and you're here to be. And it's something that I didn't know was available to me for sure, but I'm so grateful to experience.
yeah, me too.
And so I know you've been on, like, Dani is like plant medicine queen, and like she has this inner medicine woman that is like fucking powerful, like so powerful that you've really connected to over like the last year, year and a half.
Mm.
And I think it would be really beautiful because I know that you started your journey with the plant medicine. You started with Mama Aya.
Well, it's interesting actually because I originally, so if we think about plant medicine, so intentionally,
Mhm.
yes. But if
Yeah.
we think about plant medicine, so there's a wide variety of, say, psychoactive plant medicine. So a psychoactive is like altering your state of consciousness. So for example, a psychoactive, also you can get a lotus tea, like the lotus flower. Blue
Mhm.
lotus tea is a psychoactive, but such a minor psychoactive. You know, the goddesses Isis used to use blue lotus tea. You know, we're talking thousands and thousands of years ago, right? There's evidence of that. The goddesses used to use that to alter their state of consciousness. So my journey originally began with marijuana back when
I
I
knew
was,
you were gonna say that. I don't know why.
yeah. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
No, I didn't know that. We've never spoken into that before, but I felt that. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So it started with marijuana. However, I used to use marijuana as like an escaping tool, right? Because it alters your state of consciousness. So it calms things down, it grounds you, you know, and there's actually a lot of scientific research that the marijuana plant has actually been around for medicinal use for over 40,000 years, which is
Wow.
the longest recorded plant medicine out there. It's a lot, yeah, so it's a long time. So I used to use, and I think I was like, I wasn't. It's they say that you can't get addicted to like psychedelics,
Mm,
and although marijuana is not typically a psychedelic, it still falls in the same category um, as as a psychedelic. Like it's kind of like right next to it.
mhm,
However, the way that I used to smoke it was I used to smoke cigarettes as well. So it was the nicotine, and it was the escape that I used to be addicted to. It was like I was going through really tough times, and it really got me through that. However, I saw it as a dark tool, so got away from it, and decided never to smoke again. And here and there I would, but like years and years apart, and would be like just a little bit. But it's not something that I used to fall for or knew anything about with healing.
mhm,
However, fast forward to many years later, I actually had so the second LSD trip that I ever had, the very first one that I had was with a group of people back when I was like 18, I think 19, 18 to 17. I don't know, it was young. And it was
mhm,
with a group of people, and it was a very small, small amount. I literally saw, like, sat around a table. I saw like this green leprechaun, and then went to bed. I was like, "Whoa!" Went to bed. But anyway, the second time that I tried LSD was I went to a 3-day bush festival out in the middle of like literally the bush. Like people were moving trees and scrub work to be able to put their tents up. And it was a 3-day festival. And I remember I had my very first psychedelic experience. And it was the most beautiful experience of my life. Like at that point, it was really like profound. I just remember like the trees were dancing and singing to me. Everything on the ground was moving. It was all warped. However, the space that I was in with my friends, it was like quite hippie like, so they were all like smoking weed, and they had like speed and all these are like drugs there as well. So the experience was mixed, and I didn't touch like I there was other times in throughout my teenage years that I took like MDMA, but it was never for medicinal use. It was always as like an escape. So I stopped all of that, stopped drinking alcohol for like many, many years. And I started to get a calling deep in my healing journey um, for ayahuasca. And then that technically was my first real like plant medicine, sacred, deep inner healing work. Yeah,
mhm.
that I did. But I just didn't want to excuse those other experiences that I had, because even though they weren't under quote unquote the right set and setting or right intention, I really feel that they really allowed me to know that there was so much more to this 3D world than I could ever possibly imagine. And it allowed me to open up so freely and easily when I hit such a point in my healing journey, where I was then able to go, okay, now we've got some things that we want to go deeper and heal and really surrender into.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and thank you for sharing that, like, as far back as, yeah, like, smoking marijuana.
Mm,
And I think that a lot of people would feel similar around that drug and, like, MDMA, where it's like a maladaptive coping mechanism.
mhm. Yeah.
But it's also seeing, like, now how that's led you to be like, "Actually, I can see the benefit from that because through the altered states of consciousness of being with those drugs when I was little, I was able to be like, 'Oh, there's more to this life.'"
Mm,
And it's also I feel like that's played a role in how incredible you are at holding yourself through your plant medicine journeys now.
mm, mm,
And so I feel like it's another piece of like nothing we do is bad or wrong. Everything's happening for us. Even the patterns and the pieces that we think are bad patterns and bad pieces that we're doing, they're all happening for us and they're all helping us get to where we're going.
yeah,
And we can
absolutely.
either like see the lessons or we can be the victim to what we've been through.
Mhm,
And so when you say like you had a calling for Mama Aya,
mm.
what is the calling? So, like, I think it would be cool to speak into, like, what does that feel like to be like, "Oh, I'm meant to do that."
Mm, it feels like it's like a direct, it's like a direct download. It's kind of like when you get an intuitive feeling in your body, and you're just like, I know something. Like that's kind of like how it started. I was like, where is this word? But then all of a sudden, I noticed when you get a calling with Mama Aya, she becomes very present in your life. So I started to notice that I would hear the word ayahuasca through like music and songs, and I'd be like, ayahuasca, what is that? And then I Googled what ayahuasca was, and it was like, the mother of all plant medicines, the mother of all teachers. You physically cannot take ayahuasca in a recreational setting. Like you cannot. It has to be done with a shaman. It has to be done in ceremony. It has to be done that way. And I just went, ooh, and I looked into it and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for something like that intense." But I felt for me like I'd gotten so far upon my healing journey, and because of all of the trauma that I had been through in my own life and my mom had been through in hers, and all of the collective trauma, I knew that that was my next step in my journey. And then I started to notice things would come up, like on TV. I'd be watching a movie and then they would talk about ayahuasca or a ceremony, and it's like this. All of a sudden, it's like the universe was just completely speaking to me, right? Everywhere I looked, every sign that I saw would be labeled ayahuasca in some one way or another, whether it said Aya or whether it said mama or whether it said nature or whatever it was. And it got to the point, sister, where I literally would go for a walk and the trees were like calling me in. Like they were calling me. And I just like I remember this one time sitting, well, I wasn't sitting, I was walking, and I took my shoes off and I was walking on the grass and looking up at the trees, and I saw Mother Ayahuasca in the tree. Like this, and when I say I saw Mother Ayahuasca, if you could imagine, you could picture like a kind of like a woman's face with like branches for hair and like leaves for hair, like this golden, not golden, like green locks, like beautiful, beautiful piece.
Mm,
And what's really interesting, sister, is I saw her in my very first journey. The exact same image, that but in much more detail.
mhm.
When I first went under the medicine in my very first ceremony with Mama Aya. But for those that don't know what ayahuasca is, it's it's two different plants. So it's the vine. They call it the vine of the dead or the vine of the soul, and then it's the petuna leaves as well. So in the Amazon, which is known of like hundreds of thousands of millions of plants, um, shamans said that they were told to pick two plants and to break them apart and brew them together and brew them in this tea that takes about 8 hours, 8 to 15 hours to brew, and then that then is the drink, that the medicine that you drink. And Mama Aya, like having ayahuasca, brings up a lot of purging through the body. So whether that's through crying or shaking or vomiting is the biggest one, but generally it's not like a regular vomit. It's like it's an energetic vomit. It's a vomit of black tar that you'll visionaries see, but it's not actually there. And it's purging all of the energy that's not wanted and not needed, and the negativity from your body, and then it allows you to then go into a state of receiving, understanding, healing, teaching lessons, whatever it is that A, your intention is, and B, what Mama Aya wants to show you.
Mm. Yeah, it's such an incredible medicine.
Mm.
And I think, like, I can imagine, like, so you're purging and you're vomiting, or I know you, like, had a yawning. Was that with the mushroom or was that with Aya?
Yeah, that was with
It was with
Aya. Mm.
yeah. And so I think it would be a cool picture to paint is like, what might lead someone to sit with Mama Ayahuasca?
Mm,
Like, why might someone sit with her? And also, like, how did it feel leading into doing a journey like that?
mm. Yeah. So I know, firstly, how does it feel leading into a journey like that? I had a
Mhm,
lot of fear that came up for me throughout the whole process, like for months and months. So much fear that came up the very first time that I did ayahuasca, which was a year and a half ago now. And I'm about to sit for my second ayahuasca experience, which will be 4 ceremonies. My first was only two. Um, so leading into that, there was a lot of fear. It's kind of like when you go to jump off a rock into the water. It's something that you really want to do, but you have like all of this fear that's there, but you do it anyway, or you might not do it, right?
mhm,
But if you've had that calling and that deep inner knowing, then you'll do it anyway. But what might lead someone to sit with Mama Aya is so many things. Like ayahuasca has been known, and so has the mushroom, been known to heal depression, anxiety, PTSD, like really severe. I think there's been so many cases of people in the system for years and years and years on antidepressants and done all of this trauma therapy and unable to shake what they're going through or why they're going through what they're going through. Then they'll sit with Mama Aya once, and it's like their whole life has completely changed and the depression's gone. And that's not to say, put a disclaimer here for anyone listening that thinks that, one sitting with ayahuasca is going to cure everything, because it might not. It
mhm,
might not. And takes a lot of integration and a lot of action, a lot of active action afterwards to continue the healing process as well. But I know that it's it's such a and it was for me, it was such a profound experience, but and it does have its dark side as well. Of course, like anything, it has its dark side. Like if you suffer with schizophrenia, they say not to sit at all. Um, and it's a little bit different with the mushroom. Like if you sit with the mushroom, if you're in a negative headspace, you'll most likely have a negative journey. So don't take it until you're in a more aligned space. Whereas with Mama Aya, it's a bit different. It doesn't really
mhm,
matter if you're in a negative headspace, because Mama Aya is going to cleanse you of that one
mm,
way or the other.
mhm,
Yeah, so I feel they're the bigger reasons that people may feel to sit with Mama Aya. But there's so many other reasons. Like, for me, it was I wanted to go deep into my shadows because I knew that there was a lot there. I wanted deep, profound healing. I wanted to know what my purpose here in life was. Because being so gifted from a young age and being suppressed for so long, I was like, what the fuck am I actually here for? Why are we here? What's this sense of self? What's his purpose? What does my ego really desire? How do I move past that? How do I step into all of these new versions of myself? And my very first sitting with Mama Aya was the most beautiful experience of my entire life. The love that she showed me was nothing I've ever experienced in this life. Like the way that she held me, and yeah, there was some dark times, but the way that she just held me and showed me not only where I came from and my past lineage and all of the visionary, incredible things and the journey, but the feeling that I got through that first experience was out of this world. Like you said earlier, sister, about trying to explain a sunrise. Like you could imagine trying to explain a sunrise that you have never even seen before, or no one around you has ever been able to see before, but yet trying to explain that like in 5, 6, 7, 8, 90. It's
yeah,
like, how do you explain that? You just Yeah, it's really, really it was really profound. And it's not to say that everyone's experience was like that. You know, my second journey was really intense and I had a like an actual ego death and I thought my body was actually dying and the shaman sat with me and nursed me to my metaphorical death and then I was reborn and magic has happened ever since then. But
Mm,
there have been cases of it going the other way as well, and that's why it's really important to do your research.
mhm,
To find a shaman or a teacher who is quite experienced in the field, especially with ayahuasca, because you can't,
yeah,
as I said earlier, you can't take ayahuasca on your own. You have
mhm.
to be in a healing environment.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm,
And yeah, I want to emphasize that piece, that last piece you shared is like, do your research
mm,
and make sure you're sitting with a shaman that has a lot of experience and a lot of credibility.
mhm,
And also something else there is like, I can't help but speak into this piece because the more I learn and the more I experience that is not here but is here, the more I'm like, most things that are illegal, because ayahuasca is illegal, mushrooms are illegal.
in certain countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that are seen as bad and wrong have incredible healing potential.
Mhm,
They're incredible healing potential. A lot of things that are normalized are very harmful for us.
mhm,
And so it's knowing that if you hear ayahuasca and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a plant medicine, how scary, how bad, how wrong, whatever your conditioning is, it's like do your research and create your own journey and follow your callings.
mm,
Because so much of what I thought this society was, it is not. And if we want to be healthy, we have to go and create health for ourselves because there is no way the lifestyle of the way society is constructed is going to make you fucking healthy. There is no way they do not want you to be healthy. And I just really felt that as you're saying, like ayahuasca can help with like depression, anxiety, PTSD, like whatever you've been through, like there's plant medicines and different modalities that can help you that you probably have not been heard of, like haven't heard of, and you've just gone to Western medicine because that's what we were taught to do, and that's okay.
mhm.
But it's knowing that there's so much more out there.
And the difference between Western and Eastern medicine, because Eastern medicine is plant medicines and Western
Hmm.
medicine is um, like pharmaceuticals. The difference between these medicine and drugs, my opinion, the difference between these is most of the pharmaceuticals are just a suppression, so they're just to suppress it, right? So suppress what exactly is happening. Like if you look at antidepressants, for example, I was diagnosed with severe PTSD, anxiety, and depression when I just after I had my first child. And so I would drink. I started drinking a little while after that, and I was just prescribed Zoloft. And Zoloft is like was back then, like we're talking, 18, 17 years ago. It was one of the highest pharmaceuticals for depression out there at the time. And I was prescribed something like 200 milligrams a day, which is fucking huge.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge, or it might have been more than that. I can't remember, but I just remember it was massive. And I'd have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. I was supposed to, but my doctor never asked me anything about do you drink, what's your lifestyle look like, what do you eat, all of those kind of things. So I was a drinker, right? So literally within 2 weeks of me taking these antidepressants, I had a drink with a couple of my girlfriends, and yeah, I went out and I completely blacked out that night. I ended up doing a home invasion on one of my friends that I don't remember. Like I remember glimpses and bits and pieces after the story was told. That I was like throwing plates through the windows, like completely smashed up their whole house. And they had an inspection the next day. Like my friends, these were my friends and I'd beaten up one of the boys that lived there. Like, I don't remember any of this. And it was then after that happened that I just went, fuck Western medicine. I'm never taking another antidepressant again. I'll do it myself. I'll fix myself. So I've kind of always had that mentality. Like, I think I was like 18 and a half or 19 when this happened. I was so young.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was so young, and I was just like, no, this is not for me. And I feel like that's kind of like why I went down that journey. But the Eastern medicine does the opposite. So it will take you into your pain and will show you your subconscious mind. It will show you your blocks. It will show you your trauma and allow you to feel it and work through it to heal it. And then all of a sudden, it's fucking gone. Like after my first ceremony of sitting with Mama Aya, like 2 ceremonies, I felt like I had had 50 years worth of therapy
I
in
remember you saying
one
that actually.
sitting.
Yeah.
One sitting. I was
It was
like, This is, like, incredible." I was like, I don't need to pay a mentor and a coach and a psychologist or anything anymore because I'm like, I literally like, a plant taught me this? Like, holy shit." Like, it was profound. And it was through that journey, that then the mushrooms started to call me, which I'd never experienced or never experimented with, and I have so much gratitude in my heart that I didn't. And then, yeah, I got the calling to start working with the mushroom, and which was
mm,
a whole different, similar in some ways, um, but a whole different avenue and experience. Like I've had a mushroom journey where it's been, if we think about levels, right? For example, a level one experience within the mushroom phase, because they're two completely different medicines, right? Ayahuasca is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which we already have in our body. We already have in our body. We have it in our liver. We have it we now have been told we have it in our lungs. We have it in our pineal gland, in our brain, different areas of our body. Our body fucking produces DMT. You can't tell me that's not natural, right? That's
mm,
how natural do you get that? Like we produce that within our body. It just enhances it. Whereas the mushroom is it's a s well, they're both psychedelics, right? But the mushroom is completely different. It, reconnects neural pathways. I mean, they both do that, but they have a similar, but different teaching. So if you're thinking about, like, if it's to understand, for someone here listening that is like, "What is she talking about, a level 1 experience?" So a level 1 experience is like how you are right now, but feeling so much love and like connected to nature. So kind of like an experience in a meditation, sister, is how you would
mm,
feel. Like in a really deep meditation, you'd be like, wow, this is so beautiful. And then level 2 is that plus some visuals. You might see a little bit of walking. And then you can go all the way up to like level 5, level 6 experience. And this is going from like the Timothy Leary theory and, all of those psychonauts back in the day. Um, the way that they've explained it. Whereas like a level 5 or a level 6 experience is like complete loss of self, loss of sense. You have no idea who you are or where you are. Everything is completely like 5D, which I cannot even begin to explain that kind of experience. I have had both. In that experience, it's like you don't know what's real, like feel your body, you're like, oh my gosh, it's yeah, quite profound. And what I can say is both of those experiences came with lessons. Right. So the level 5 experience is really beautiful, to be able to understand that, well, there's so much like geometry and all of this stuff that's actually happening that we can't see on a physical level, but we know that it's there in an energetic. There's science based on that now. You don't have to have a psychedelic to understand the science behind that. Just watch Gaia. It's all there. It's all written in the stars now. We can see that. But it can be quite overwhelming and it can be quite hard to piece out what's really valuable in those experiences. You might only get the one or the two things anyway, and everything else you're like, what the fuck just happened? But in
mhm,
awe and, reconnected and, for the next few days, because the mushroom works with you for a few days after that as well. Whereas a level 1 experience, you can get very crystal clear messages, but it's not as, yeah, visionary. But they're all healing in their own ways. And this is not to say to go and do a plant medicine journey. This is just my experience, and many others as well that have had plant medicine journeys. But yeah, if you feel that calling, then I highly recommend to just listen to it.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just in awe of you. I could feel like your medicine woman just like coming out and
Mm,
sharing like your knowledge that you've built and the journeys that you've been on.
mm. And what's really interesting, what's really, really interesting that I found like with the mushroom, because I've been working with the mushroom for a little while now, is what I've found over the course of working with the mushroom is that so many things have changed. Like, because obviously, not obviously, but working with the mushroom, it reconnects in neural pathways, it redirects them, it fires and wires, and then you've got those permanently, right? They're now your new processing, they're now your new patterns, your new beliefs, and your new stories. You can go back to the old ones if you want to, but you've got these new ones there as well. And if you choose to feed those, then that'll become your new reality. So
Mhm.
it's like plant medicine is kind of like this quantum leap into a healing journey, whereas what you could sit in therapy, because I went started going to therapy when I was in school. It's
Mhm.
something that I'd been to all different kinds of therapy before, including hypnotherapy. So had done all of these therapy lessons and modalities, but it wasn't until I had personally done plant medicine that I went, Okay, I like, oh, now I get it." And it was like having these huge modalities all in one sitting. And the thing that I've found working with the mushroom is that it's allowed me to really unlock and tap into these higher parts of myself that I never, ever would have been able to access without it. There is no way that I would have been able to trust myself to the depth and the level that I do now if it wasn't for some of these experiences that I've had.
Yeah, which is so beautiful.
Mm,
It's literally guided you on unlocking more of your truth and connecting deeper with your higher self.
mm,
And it's been so profound to witness. Like every time you go into a journey, it's like I remember I think it was your first ayahuasca journey, and I was like, I feel like I'm losing you.
mhm.
Why do I feel like I'm losing you? And you went through this massive ego death
Yeah.
and you completely changed.
Mhm.
And it was so incredible to witness.
Mm,
But it wasn't like you changed into like this altered state. It was like you were coming home to yourself and there was like this deeper love, this deeper authenticity, this deeper truth to you.
mm.
And it's like this forever unfolding. It's just, yeah, it's so beautiful to witness and also so profound. And I think a huge piece that plays into that is the intentions that you set for yourself, but also afterwards how you integrate.
Mm,
Like, yeah, the journey could be this profound piece where you have this amazing breakthrough or realization or whatever it is. But it's also that, like, the work that you're doing afterwards to integrate that so that you do change and become that or let go to become that
yeah, absolutely.
rather than going on journeys and just staying the same sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something the mushroom taught me, maybe about, I'm not sure, maybe 4 months ago was to take active action. Like as
Mhm.
soon as you get that feeling or that knowing or that download, act on it straight away because and it's like connecting to your higher self. Your higher self knows the first answer.
Yeah.
What's my favorite color? The very first thing that comes to mind, it's your favorite color, even if it's just for today, right? Or it might be what you know. But yeah, when you're asking these deep and meaningful questions, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been so helpful for me because whenever Dani goes on these journeys, I literally will hold space for her to share what's come up and what's come through. And a lot of the pieces that you learn and that you take through, I then integrate and
Mm,
I learn. So, and I haven't sat with any plant medicine yet. I actually have done marijuana when I was younger too, but totally different intentions.
mm,
But it's been such a beautiful piece of witnessing you on your journeys and your learnings and being able to learn through you and grow with you.
mm,
And I'm so grateful that yeah, you share all your learnings and that you're such in devotion with like your journey and discovering more of your truth and like letting go of your shadows that being alongside you, there's no way I can't come with. Like you yeah, it's just such a beautiful piece of like witnessing you in every plant medicine journey and how you've changed.
I just want to speak into two things that you've just said there. So, firstly, I just want to say thank you for holding space for me, because one of the biggest pieces of integration is to be able to share your experience, sharing your experience with someone who's non-judgmental, and it can hold that space, even if it is me telling you about all the visionary stuff that I saw. And holy shit, you've got no idea what it's like to fucking love yourself and see yourself in the mirror for the first time and go, "Oh my god, I fucking love you, Danny," and I really mean it. It's like, yeah, to have someone to be able to have that space. So thank you, sister, because it
Mm,
means the absolute world to me, and I know that you already know that.
love you.
And yeah, the second piece is it's really, really, like as you said, the devotion that I have to going into the shadows and the healing and the attention behind it is the most important piece. So I'm like, I could feel like I could be in any experience and find a lesson. I'm like this hunting jaguar that's like looking like, right, where is the lesson here, and something that you can do with these plant medicines is you can speak with them, you can speak to the mushroom, you can speak to Mama Aya answers a lot more directly than the mushroom does. The mushroom's more playful and gentle, and yeah, whereas Mama Aya is just like fucking here but will hold you through it, right, because she is that mother. Yeah, so the intention behind it is always like, what is the lesson? And I always after every journey and before every journey, I dedicate time completely off social media, completely
Mm,
out of my business, not working. No one's going to die. Everyone's going to be okay. I take myself, immerse myself in nature, immerse myself in my meditations, my breath work, come back to body, because when challenging times arise, which they will, when they arise, it's being able to hold yourself through that, with a mushroom journey, with the ayahuasca, with the shaman will help hold you through that. But ultimately, you're still taking yourself through that. But then, even after the experience, I really piece apart. Yeah, okay, I got that you can transmute emotion through sexual energy, but how do I do that? And then
mm,
allowing that time, writing everything down and journaling on it and sitting and meditating with it and just being and allowing every little thing to make sense. Not so the analytical mind can know what happened. It's more than that. It's like I'm doing this for healing, and my intention behind it is pure, and it's to heal me and my traumas. And it's like asking the universe, please just guide me and show me love. I want to lead from a place of love. I want to be authentic. What does authenticity mean to me? It means being completely me, taking off the masks. And how do I do that if I can't see my shadows, or if I can only see part of those shadows? Because the thing is all of these experiences that happen to us, they go somewhere. The memories go somewhere, and we lead from that place. We end up leading from that place. And then there's so many more layers, underneath that. Like what happened to our ancestors? That's running through our blood, sister. That's running through our
mhm,
bones too. Like how do we heal and lead that? And I know because, I know that I've been a medicine woman in many lifetimes because Mama A showed me that. But using this lifetime, this is my mission here. This lifetime is to move through that trauma, move through not only my own but my family's, and the feminine, and the consciousness, the collective trauma. So the next generation, maybe not the next, but the next, maybe my grandchildren will have a fucking better life, a better go at this life, right? Maybe they'll have more rights. Maybe they'll have less trauma. They'll have a little bit more love. Maybe you'll have that witchy grandmother who knows how to heal their ear infection, rather than going to the doctor and getting a prescription for something that, potentially is not healing anything. It's costing money, or et cetera, et cetera. Like I know that that's my purpose, and
mm.
I would not have been able to access that if it wasn't for these journeys.
Yeah, I'm so here for all of that. I'm so with you on that.
Mm.
And I think a key piece we can take away from all of this, like going into any type of different modality, whether it's plant medicine, whether it's your meditations, your breath work, your aesthetic dance, whatever it is, there's this piece that is playing out in all of it. Like the intention a lot of the time. The reason me and Danny got into all of these is because of the state of suffering that we once lived in.
Mhm.
So the intention behind all this is to some degree to create it's from our trauma, like we're wanting to move through our trauma.
Mhm.
And like a key piece that I see in all of this is like we have to remember that we are the only ones that can heal ourselves.
Mhm.
Always. Maybe you have someone guiding you, but you are the one that has to take responsibility for your own journey. And you are the one that has to, at the end of the day, do all the work. And it's such like a powerful piece. Like there is no drug that is going to cure you. I really don't believe that. Not when it comes to trauma.
Mhm.
So if you're in a state of suffering or like you're always exhausted or you've got body pains or you're sick all the time, like whatever it is, I can guarantee that there is energy in your body that needs releasing, and pharmaceutical drugs are just going to suppress the symptoms. They're not going to get to the root cause and allow that energy to be released and allow you to experience states of joy and bliss. That's not going to happen from pharmaceutical drugs, right? That is a big business. That is a money making business,
Mm.
not a healing business. And so I think there's a point in your healing journey where you start to uncover all this and you're like, "Oh wait, okay. I see how corrupt everything is and how do I help myself?" And you just follow whatever is alive for you.
Mm.
Right? I remember when all I had was like I was like, I just want to do breath work, and I'd go to breath work once a week. That was perfect for that phase. Right? And now I'm wanting to sit with the mushroom for my first time. And that's perfect for where I'm at right now. And so once you open your eyes and you start to see what you're not seeing and you take your healing into your own hands, you unlock level upon level of healing and freedom and like authenticity and love, and it just gets to get deeper if you want it to.
Mm.
Mm, yeah. And I trust that this episode has like inspired you to look at different modalities and just inspired you to realize that maybe there's more out there. There's more than meets the eye. And you're never stuck. You're never stuck. You can always create your own freedom. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to this episode and tuning in with us. We're so grateful for all of you that listen. So, so grateful. And if you enjoyed this episode, give us a 5-star rating. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
We love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.